Right now, let's turn back to California. We've got a stunning case we're covering. A defendant who was given the nickname the Butt Lady, sentenced for murder. Why? Because she was doing illegal silicone injections in different clients' buttocks areas. And she had killed a woman some years ago, convicted of manslaughter, got time served, was released, and then she picks up another homicide case. This time she killed actress Cindyana Santangelo, 59-year-old working actress in Hollywood, who died from a fatal embolism connected to those unlawful silicone injections in her buttocks. Her sentencing underway this week. We heard from her husband and one of her sons. Let's go back in together now.
Cleaned up evidence, not to protect Chris's dignity, but to protect yourself. These actions speak volumes. They speak of selfishness, cowardice, and a fundamental disregard for human life. The people of Los Angeles deserve protection from such individuals who operate in the shadows, preying on trust and exploiting vulnerability. A short time later, Judge Lamelli pronounced sentence. He sentenced the defendant, and again, he told her, if you continue to engage in this conduct, you were on notice of the dangers. If this happens again, you could be charged with murder. 341 days later, she does it again. And as I said during my argument with respect to the new trial motion, it is so poignant that the jury asked to hear that paramedic's testimony about what Cindyana told him, about the crushing chest pain, about how she repeatedly said she thought she was going to die. At best, Adame's behavior that day was deceptive and selfish. At worst, it was utterly depraved. But, Your Honor, I believe the jury got it right, finding the defendant acted, essentially, through their verdict, with an abandoned and malignant heart, as the law states. People request the statutorily required sentence of 15 years to life in state prison.
Mr. Flanagan, do you wish to make a statement or argument regarding sentence?
No.
All right. We have time to sentence and arraignment on judgment?
Yes.
Thank you. Defendant Libby Adame comes before the court for sentencing. The defendant was convicted by jury on October 9, 2025. In count one, the defendant was convicted of second-degree murder of Cindyana Santangelo in violation of Penal Code Section 187, Subdivision A. In count two, the defendant was convicted of practicing medicine without a certificate in violation of Business and Professions Code Section 2052, Subdivision A. On this count, the jury also found true the special allegation that the defendant personally inflicted great bodily injury on the victim. In summary, the facts introduced in the trial show the victim, who sought to enhance the appearance of her buttocks, contacted the defendant, who was known in Los Angeles area community of those seeking cosmetic enhancements for her services. On March 24, 2025, the defendant went to the home of Cindyana Santangelo to perform her services. There, the defendant injected silicone oil into the buttocks of the victim, who, while the defendant was present, began to have difficulty breathing. Unbeknownst to the victim, the silicone oil had migrated from the injection site to the bloodstream. The victim's circulatory system thereafter moved the silicone oil into her lungs, which prevented the lungs from obtaining oxygen for the body, which led to her death. The court will now analyze the defendant's sentence. First, the defendant is presumptively ineligible for probation under Penal Code Section 1203, Subdivision E, Paragraph 3, except in unusual cases where the interest of justice would best be served through granting probation. This analysis is conducted through Rule 4.413 of the California Rules of Court. Under Rule 4.413C, the two major categories for the trial court to consider are: 1, factors relating to the basis for limiting probation, and 2, factors limiting the defendant's culpability. Each factor shall be considered in turn. We start with factors relating to the basis for limitation on probation, which is that the crime for which the defendant has been convicted required willfully inflicting great bodily injury. On this, the rule states, the factor or circumstances giving rise to the limitation on probation is in this case substantially less serious than the circumstances typically present in other cases involving the same probation limitation, and the defendant has no record of committing similar crimes or crimes of violence. First, the defendant has a record of committing a similar crime. The defendant was charged with murder in the death of Carissa Rajpal in case BA 497892. The incident involved the same procedure of injecting a person seeking enhancement for her buttocks through receiving an injection, in that case also silicone oil. The defendant was charged identically to this case with murder and practicing medicine without a certificate. Ultimately, the jury found her not guilty of murder, but guilty of involuntary manslaughter and guilty of practicing medicine without a certificate. Furthermore, here, the great bodily injury caused by injecting silicone oil caused not only the great bodily injury, but also led to the victim's death. Thus, the limitation on probation, the willful infliction of great bodily injury, is not substantially less serious than typically present in other cases. As for factors limiting the defendant's culpability, the court should consider factors or circumstances not amounting to a defense, but which reduces the defendant's culpability for the offense, including one, whether the defendant participated in the crime under circumstances of great provocation, coercion, or duress, not amounting to a defense, and the defendant has no recent record of committing crimes of violence. 2, the crime was committed because of mental condition not amounting to a defense, and there is a high likelihood that the defendant would respond favorably to mental health care and treatment that would be required as a condition of probation. 3, the defendant is youthful or aged and has no significant record of prior criminal offenses. On the circumstances of the murder itself, the defendant, while still on probation for the involuntary manslaughter conviction, again engaged in the business of providing injections for cosmetic purposes. There is no evidence of provocation, duress, or coercion not amounting to a defense. On the factor regarding mental conditions, the court is unaware of any mental conditions not amounting to a defense from the defendant. As for the age, at the time the crime was committed, the defendant was 54 years old. The age of the defendant is not unusual, such that the court should exercise its discretion to grant probation. The defendant will be sentenced to prison. The prescribed punishment for second-degree murder is a life sentence with a minimum term of 15 years. Therefore, on count 1, the defendant is sentenced to a life term with a minimum term of 15 years. On count 2, the court will impose the middle term of 2 years, adding the 3 years for the GVI enhancement. This sentence is stayed pursuant to Penal Code Section 654. The stay to become permanent upon the completion of sentence on count 1. Mr. Flanagan, what are your client's actual credits?
She was taken in custody on May 2nd.
Your Honor, she was arrested on May 12, 2025.
May 12th.
Including today, that's 170 days actual. I'm sorry, 178 days actual.
The defendant is awarded 178 days actual. Regarding victim restitution, Mr. Flanagan, what is your client's wish? The people are asking that the court reserve jurisdiction on the issue of victim restitution, and so therefore, I need to know whether your client wants to come back or whether she is willing to waive her right to be present and vest you with the authority to make that decision.
No, she'll waive her right.
Ms. Adame, you have a right to be present for purposes of the restitution to the victim. So essentially what the law requires, both under the California Constitution and under the Penal Code, is that where damage has been done to the victim, then the defendant is required to compensate the victim for that damage. In this case, it most likely will be funeral expenses. And so therefore, You have a right to be present when the court makes final decisions on awarding victim restitution to the prosecution, to the victim.
Going to pause what the judge is saying right here with this sentencing. At least 15 years this defendant has to do for this crime, up to life imprisonment for her. What do you think about the fairness of that sentence? Is it enough? Let's bring in our legal analyst guest, prosecuting attorney Matt Roberts, on the show. Matt, what are your thoughts on the severity of the sentence?
Well, it's difficult to say, obviously, because I'm sure for the victims, it probably feels like that's not justice. But we can't discount the fact that this was not necessarily an act meant to cause the person's death. This was just a callous act, certainly, and there's a disregard for the safety of that individual, certainly based on the history here. So it feels about right. That's obviously set forth by California law, and the judge went through the factors there and found that there was nothing weighing against imposing that minimum sentence. So it feels like it's probably the right sentence. But again, to the victims, it probably doesn't feel like enough.
Mm-hmm. Right. When is it ever enough? Exactly, Matt. Well said. Thank you for that. Stand by kindly, please. When we come back, a plastic surgeon is joining us live next to talk about this, these silicone injections, how this happens, and the fatal embolism that led to the death of actress Cindyana Santangelo.
I just remember her facial expression. It was kind of like a look of shock.
Once you heard the shooting, what did you think that was?
I knew it was a gunshot.
How many times was she shot? How many gunshots did you hear?
I thought I had died.
Do you have any opinion on whether Dr. Parker could have foreseen JD's actions that day based on the information that she had?
I think it would be difficult for anyone to have foreseen that.
We're on that verdict watch in the civil courtroom in the case of the teacher shot by her 6-year-old student. Live look right now, courtesy of one of our Quick TV cameras filming this case. 3 hours, 17 minutes and counting. No verdict yet, no questions. If there's any movement from that jury, we will bring it to you live right here. In the meantime, let's return to California for the sentencing of the woman who was given the nickname the Butt Lady because she was administering illegal silicone injections in clients. This is her. This is the defendant. Her name is Libby Adame. And she killed actress Cindyana Santangelo after she injected silicone into her buttocks area, and it led to a fatal embolism. And this isn't the first time that this defendant has killed someone by way of these unlawful silicone injections. It happened a few years ago. She was given 3 years in prison for her sentence for the crime of manslaughter, got credit for the time served, and released. So let's talk about this with our very special guest. I want to welcome him in now, Dr. Craig Oser, board certified, actually double board certified plastic surgeon and reconstructive expert, coming on the show to help us out with this case. Dr. Craig, welcome to you. Thank you so much for being with us on this Thursday morning. And I got to say, we need to start having you on the staff here at Court TV. We've been calling you so much lately. We called you for the lip filler, alleged child killer case. Yes. And then now this one, the butt lady, as she's called. My goodness. So, Dr. Craig, let's start, if we can, please, just your reaction when you hear about this lady unlawfully injecting silicone into a woman's behind to give that appearance of the grown glute area. Your thoughts, Doc?
Sure. Well, there's so many things wrong with this particular case. Number one, silicone is extremely off-label for injecting really anywhere in the body, including the buttocks, the face, and unfortunately, we see tragic events like this happen all the time. Now, things to keep in mind is, I do these procedures in a sterile environment. We're doing it with anesthesia there, and you have to know the anatomy of the area. So I would never, ever inject silicone in a patient's buttock area. Yes, I do gluteal augmentation. I use the patient's own fat. The problem with using silicone is number one, it is foreign to the body, and the body will react and form what's called granulomas, which can create infections. In this particular case, what happened was the person injected in the wrong area. So there's something called the gluteal vein. If you inject in the wrong area, you can inject product in the gluteal vein, which can result in an embolism, which is what happened in this case. It can also happen with fat, but you need to know where you are injecting. You need to stay in the proper plane, and that comes with proper training. And I don't really think this individual has proper training. First of all, I believe she did it in the woman's house, which is ludicrous also. It is not a sterile environment.
Right, Dr. Craig. Tell us more, please. So we're reading that this unlawful set of injections of the silicone in the buttocks area led to a fatal embolism. Would you take us to school, please, Doc? What is that? How does that happen?
Sure. So what an embolism is, it can be created by fat, it can be created by air, or in this case, by silicone. So the product was injected underneath the muscle, which is where the gluteal vein lives. When you inject anything in the buttock area, you want to be above the muscle. So this person, number one, injected in the wrong plane. Number two, this silicone got into the blood vessel. It traveled all the way up to the lungs, and that's what we call an embolism, and it caused an area in the lungs to basically not have oxygen because it clogged the vein, which prevented oxygen from getting to that part of the lung, and that is what we call an embolism. So that is what happened in this particular case. Yes, like I said, it can happen with other products, but there's so many things wrong with injecting silicone. I mean, I've read stories of patients injecting silicone that was not even medical grade. They got it from the local automotive store. So that's another issue. I don't know, was this even medical grade silicone also? But this is a fatal complication, unfortunately.
Yes, Doc, I'm so glad you brought that up. The FDA has previously issued warnings, as you know, about silicone injections for body contouring, saying that sometimes there are products being falsely marketed as proper dermal fillers, you know, fillers that someone like yourself would use properly in your office with the proper medical training and the background that you have, you know, and that somehow these substances are being received. I don't know if it's on the street or, you know, however, you know, over the internet, but these are not what they're marketed to be. Talk to us, please, about the dangers of that, if you would.
Yeah, so like besides just getting a fatal embolism, like what happened in this particular patient, you could also get really, really bad infections. Because remember, this is foreign to the body, this substance. So the body views it as such, as something foreign, and what it'll do is it walls it off. And the patient can get what we call a granuloma, which is where the body tries to attack this foreign material and wall it off. And that can result in infections with also massive contour irregularities. And it is a mess to try and clean up. Patients have died just from the infections. Patients are also left with permanent disfigurement after injecting silicone. That's really the reason the FDA stepped in and said, hey, we don't want people injecting silicone in different body parts. Now, the buttocks is going to require, obviously, a large amount of silicone to get a proper augmentation. For example, when I do fat augmentation in the buttock area, you know, we'll inject 400 to 500 cc's per side in some of these patients. So can you imagine injecting that kind of volume in someone's buttock in order to give them the look they want? And unfortunately, you know, with silicone, I've seen cases where it even eroded through the skin, and now you're left with having the skin graft, that particular body part. I've seen it injected in the lips, where the lips are permanently disfigured as well afterwards. And again, it's just sad. And you are correct, like people can order some of this stuff right off the internet, which is also absurd. And I think they're doing it just for the money.
Right. Oh, I'm sure, Dr. Ozer. Yes, the greediness. I was saying we didn't see this trial. This woman was convicted of murder after the jury deliberated for about a day with her. And I have to wonder, was this just about greediness? Because she had a warning in that a couple years ago, she killed a different woman from this. And she got off with the crime of manslaughter that time and then proceeded to keep on doing the same thing, presumably for the money. And then here now it's murder charges. And hopefully hopefully she'll never be able to hurt anyone ever again. Doc, it's astounding to me that she would have a business like this. But, you know, we see crazy things all the time. Tell us, when people are wanting to achieve that look, because it is a popular look. I mean, you know, people want the look of like the Kardashians, so to speak. You know, they want the tiny waist and then the full buttocks area. And you are so much fun to follow on social media, by the way. Cordy's, follow Dr. Craig Ozer, because you put up really cool videos and things and the surgeries that you do.
Yes.
What is the safe way to achieve that look?
Right. So in my practice, I will use the patient's own fat because you're injecting, you're taking the fat out of one part of the body. Typically, we take it out of the trunk and we'll liposuction or abdomen. And then we'll take that fat, we process it, we inject it back into them. So the body doesn't view it as foreign because it's their own cells. Okay. Now, there are other doctors out there injecting fillers in the buttock, which I think is acceptable too. Again, you're going to need a large volume, but at least fillers, again, are not going to be reacted to. Your body is not going to look at that as foreign and attack it like it would silicone. And another way to do gluteal augmentation, some doctors will use silicone implants, but keep in mind, these silicone implants are FDA cleared. These silicone implants are not going to react the way what this woman did in this particular case. All right, so the silicone, just like we put in breast augmentation, that is silicone, but your body doesn't react to it the way it did in this case. So I personally don't do gluteal augmentation with silicone implants because there's a higher risk of infection with that, and I just don't think it's worth it. I like using the patient's own tissue in order to do a gluteal augmentation, but I think that, along with some fillers for people that don't need a large volume, they just want a couple little areas corrected, I think is completely acceptable. But again, the key also is you need to make sure you go to a properly trained individual that is doing the procedure, someone that's board certified in plastic surgery, someone that has a lot of experience doing this, and someone that knows the anatomy in the area they're working on, which apparently this individual didn't know the anatomy and injected into this patient's vein.
Right, Doc. Boy, this is fascinating hearing you talk about this. I said before on the show, I'll say it again, I think you really need to be an expert witness. You would be great at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course, you're welcome. What else do you think we should be asking you about this, with this case and with the medical knowledge and expertise that you have for all of us watching going, oh my gosh, how does this happen? What else do you think is pertinent to know here?
Well, I mean, the thing as a consumer, someone that's contemplating having this type of procedure, number one, you should question the fact if someone is coming to your house or hotel room. That right there should raise a red flag. Number two, you should ask your doctor, are they board certified in the specialty of plastic surgery in particular, okay? Not just are you board certified, because board certification means you could be board certified as a family practitioner or an OBGYN doctor, but are you board certified in the specialty of plastic surgery, okay? That's key. And then number three, I think you ask your doctor, have you had any complications with this? If so, you know, hopefully your doctor is transparent about this type of thing. But as a consumer, you really need to be your own best advocate. Look up the doctor online. Make sure you research the procedure you're having. Make sure you check with the local and state boards that there's no complaints against this individual, because again, these are all key things. And you know, you have to feel comfortable with your doctor too. Like in my practice, I always give my cell phone number to all my patients in case, God forbid, something happens. I want to know about it right away. Okay, so those are key things. This case, like I said, this is just tragic. And I've heard of other cases. A woman actually injected someone in a hotel room. Same thing happened with silicone. I've heard other people, believe it or not, injecting Fix-A-Flat in someone's buttocks in order to get an augmentation. I mean, unfortunately, I think the way our society is, social media is such a powerful influence to some people that everyone is after that pursuit of the perfect body, and they're willing to sacrifice certain key things with their health that you really shouldn't do. And unfortunately, people shop price. And, you know, price should not be your number one go-to with selecting an individual that's going to be doing a procedure like this on you.
Oh, you're so right, Dr. Ozer. You're so right.
Yeah.
I love how you brought it back to advocacy, which is something we talk all about on Court TV Network. As you know, be your own best advocate. As you said, when you're a patient, you really have to take control of your own health. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
doubt.
Dr. Craig Ozer, based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Follow him on social media. Your videos are so much fun and really educational, too. Appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you too. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always great to do these things with you guys.
Our pleasure. Well, we'll call you soon when the lip filler mom goes to trial soon. That case coming up. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you the rest of the butt lady sentencing when we come back here on Court TV Live.
Here you are, responsible for the lifelong torment of an entire family. Is that evil in your mind now? So now you've taken her mother's life, and you heroically step in to console her.
I knew it was wrong, but yeah, I still did it.
Did you murder her mother to try and drive her back into your arms? Oh my God.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Back to California we go now for the sentencing of the woman known as the Butt Lady, Libby Adame, convicted of the murder of actress Cindyana Santangelo after she injected her with silicone into her buttocks area, and it led to a fatal embolism. And this isn't the first time Adame has killed someone. She and her daughter were convicted of manslaughter for doing the same thing to another woman some years ago. Let's go back in for more.
On the other hand, because I am sentencing you to prison, which means that you will have to be ordered out of prison for purposes of conducting that hearing in your presence. My understanding is you're willing to waive your right to be present and allow your attorney to make that decision for you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you waive your right to be present for the victim restitution pursuant to Penal Code Section 1202.4 Subdivision F?
Yes, Your Honor.
Counsel Joint?
Yes.
Thank you. With that said, then, I will impose the actual restitution fine can be up to $10,000. I will not impose that. I anticipate the actual victim restitution will be multiple thousands of dollars, probably anywhere between, I've seen $7,500 to $15,000. I don't know what it's going to be. But at this point, I will order the defendant to pay $2,000 restitution fine, which again could be up to $10,000. But anticipating that the actual victim restitution amount will be significant, I will not impose the maximum, but impose 1/5 of the amount at $2,000. That is a 1202 subdivision, 1202.4 subdivision B restitution fine. The court will also impose the same amount, $2,000 for parole revocation restitution fine. That fine is stayed pending completion of probation. That fine, Ms. Adame, the $2,000 parole revocation restitution fine, that is stayed, meaning you do not have to pay that. You only have to pay that if you violate the terms of parole. The defendant is ordered to pay $40 court security fee assessment and a $30 criminal conviction facilities assessment. I will stay those. The defendant is ordered to give a sample of her blood or saliva plus an impression of her thumbprint, fingerprint, and palm print for identification purposes. Now, that is the judgment I have imposed on you, and I understand, Mr. Flanagan, you want forthwith commitment. Is that correct?
Well, would the court consider giving her time to get her affairs in order?
Like how much time?
A week.
Your Honor, the people object.
I think a week is reasonable. It's fine. So it will not be forthwith, but it will trigger in a week. All right. So a couple things, Ms. Adame. First, you have a right to appeal anything that has happened in this trial, including today. the motion for a new trial, and the trial itself. And then anything that may have happened prior to the trial, you have a right to appeal anyway. In this regard, you must file an appeal, a notice of appeal with the clerk of this court within 60 days of today's date. Otherwise, you will have to waive your right to appeal. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Secondarily, as it relates to parole, because you have been convicted of murder, parole is for life. So the judgment I've imposed on you has what's called a life tail at the back end, and then a 15-year minimum term on the front end. You must serve the 15 years to become eligible for parole. When you become eligible for parole, you will go before the parole board. They will look at the record of how you have been doing while incarcerated. Based on how you've been doing, they may or may not recommend that you be released on parole. If the parole board makes a recommendation that you be released on parole, it is not automatic. You then go before the governor of the state of California. The governor has the right to veto that. If the governor vetoes the recommendation, you have a right to appeal the governor's veto of your parole rights. So in any event, I have advised you concerning your parole rights. Do you understand?
Yes,
all right. That takes care of the sentencing and motion for a new trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And there we have it, the so-called butt lady sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Let's talk about how she's done this before. And sadly, she was out and able to commit this crime a second time. Let's bring in the chief trial attorney in the Muskegon County, Michigan District Attorney's Office, Matt Roberts. Matt, for the manslaughter crime that she committed a few years ago, she got 3 years, and ultimately she was in jail sitting awaiting that trial. It resulted in a time-served situation, parole forthwith, and she went on about her business to continue with the injections. Do you think perhaps 3 years wasn't severe enough for her?
Well, it probably wasn't, but again, all these decisions are viewed through the hindsight, right? And hindsight's always 20/20. So certainly, given what she does go on and do, it does make you think, well, that wasn't enough. But at the time, it probably felt like the right decision to the court, and it's really a reflection of where we are in terms of the justice system right now, with an emphasis on trying to not incarcerate defendants. Depending on where you fall on that spectrum, you might think it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that really is the pressure on judges now is to look for alternative ways to sentence people without sentencing them to prison. Sometimes not even sentence them to probation or any term of supervision or things like that. So that's a reflection of where we are right now in terms of the criminal justice system, as much as anything, for these types of offenses, even serious ones involving death here in this case.
Yeah, excellent points you've made as per usual. Matt Roberts, thank you so much for everything this morning. Wonderful seeing you.